It's a new day, man.
It's a new day. It's also a new month. It's October 1st.
It's a new month, yeah.
2021. Welcome aboard, folks. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We're at episode 518. Did I overshoot us? 517?
Yep.
Well, it's because you didn't let us have our, 28-second pre-show meeting that we usually have where we go back, where we hem-haw about what actual number it is.
I know.
You quick triggered me today.
I jumped on it, man.
Nancy, I walked
back
in
to
here
work,
doing
back
some
to business.
freaking fall cleaning and cleaning things out, and you got a dust feather and your maid outfit on. You were cleaning things up and maybe you feel lazy. Then I come in, sit in the chair, do our audio check, and bam, there goes the intro music.
There it goes.
Back,
yeah. I mean, you know.
So what, 517?
Once a year I do that to you. Make you feel guilty about being here early.
You do it once a year.
Yeah. So it's those are the days when I feel good. Let's just get it going,
Let's
man. We
get
got things to do.
We
got
got crack things to do. We got items to ship. Like we said, it is October 1st. God, this year has flown. We still got a whole quarter left. Still a lot of racing to do. First of all, before we forget, good luck to everyone racing this weekend. It is still a very busy weekend. A lot of Saturday races. I'm not sure people are allergic to racing on Sundays this week, but there is Muncie 70.3, which was moved from its traditional July date, and then they added Ironman, what they call Ironman Indiana, which is the same day. That's tomorrow as well. Then you have Memphis 70.3, which is supposed to be its first inaugural event. Was supposed to be last year, but that was obviously canned. And that's tomorrow, so I'm very interested to hear how that one goes.
Yeah, me too.
We have quite a few athletes there racing. I'm very interested, even though it is like an quote unquote in-state race. I think we can make a shorter trip to Destin if we wanted to, and go down and hang at the beach, and we could go to Memphis. I think it's a 6-hour haul from here.
It's a long haul. I wonder if they're going to end up on Beale Street.
Doubtful. But I have no idea. I haven't looked at the course map or where they end.
They'd
be pretty. Now listen, if they could hit up Germantown and which is a pretty nice area, maybe do a loop around the Grizzlies, indoor basketball, arena, and then stop smack dab in the middle of Beale Street, playing some blues, have a little bit of barbecue. I could get down with that.
Yeah, I think that would be good. They won't.
No, for sure they won't. But if you're listening, you should.
Much liability.
It's a lot of liability. A lot of brisket.
Saturday morning, people are still up.
People are still up. But hopefully that's a good weekend. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. You have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and triathlon and podcasts in general. So we appreciate you giving us your ear today. We cover it all, folks. We cover swim, bike, run specific podcasts. We cover race recaps. We do race previews. We'll have on the very, very rare guest. For the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, just going to sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through personally and in the world of triathlon and coaching, and then trying to get better ourselves. We'll oftentimes use our closed Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group on Facebook. Answer one simple question. We'll let you in there. Been a lot of chatter recently as races are going. A lot of awesome people in there. Really, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got people who have never done a triathlon, who are kind of looking to get in the sport, figuring out things, asking questions, all the way up through Ironman champions, everyone in between. So it's a really awesome group, and use that as a resource to figure things out if you have questions. And obviously, Mike and I, as both coaches that work with a very wide range of athletes across the globe with a wide variety of abilities and goals. We use that as well for our kind of the pulse of the podcast, because that generally kind of speaks to the community itself and our listeners. So we kind of take the Seinfeld route. We kind of speak generally about what most people are going through, and you can kind of, I can relate to that. That makes a lot of sense to me. We're definitely not experts. We're definitely not professionals, but we're sage, wise old men. Been doing this for a long time. We're still trying to figure it out. So hopefully we can tell you something today and go through our own, mistakes and obstacles, and also the success we've had ourselves and our athletes. And if you can apply that to your daily life, then we'll consider this podcast a success.
Wise old men. I'm a different wise old man than
wise
I was.
Old men?
I'm a different wise old man than I was Tuesday.
Yeah, you seem a little different.
It's a different ballgame.
Yeah, you've changed.
I just signed up for Ironman Wisconsin. No, I'm kidding.
No, I was gonna say, dear God,
no, but yeah, it. I got a lot of emails from people going, "Dude, you're bringing me down. Don't be so hard on yourself about the cast on Tuesday." Yeah, because I was a little disappointed in my race, and I usually am, but I think that's okay.
I thought you were honest.
Yeah, I was definitely honest.
I think
But people are kind of trying to lift me up. I mean, not in a bad way, really. They were just sort of
Let him have his moment, and then he'll move on. Just let him have his moment.
But I did, and upon reflection, I actually feel pretty good. I felt really bad Monday, and Tuesday morning I was a little bit off, and then, frankly, I took a long Epsom salt bath.
Yeah. And you're
unbelievable.
Back? Really?
Unbelievable difference it made.
Done.
And so Tuesday night was fine, and then now I kind of feel energized going up and down my stairs, and it's a different thing. But I'm really looking at this as like because again, I always talk about how Ironman is such a great workout day. It's like it's
insane.
It's an insane fitness builder in a weird way, and that I want to take advantage of. So as I move forward, it's really a good time to kind of reset your mind and body, and just sort of like ease back in and sort of work on the little things and build around the weaknesses that you have and that you figured out during Ironman. And it kind of has shifted my brain a lot on that, and I'm pretty excited about it, actually. I'm not like gonna just start going out and doing a 4-hour ride this weekend or anything like that. I just want to I might not even ride for a while, because you know how that goes.
Yeah, you don't want to hate it.
Right.
But on the same end of it, like what you just said, is very something I actually just started planning out for a lot of athletes, is that this is also like the best time of year to log as many bike miles as you possibly can that you want to, because it is the best time of year to ride. It is beautiful outside. The weather is great. The temps are down. The humidity's down. The dew point's down. And actually kind of when I was creating a couple blocks for some athletes last night, I specifically wrote like the athletes who do a late season full, who kind of, and then they take that increased volume, and really not just the volume, but their increased aerobic capacity, and kind of move that through, October through February, March. They end up having very, very, very good early season races, because they basically like spent the last 5 or 6, well, not 5 or 6 weeks, but the last 8 to 10 weeks just really creating like the best aerobic engine they've probably ever built. And then if they can keep doing that, because the thing is, like, you have the fitness to do it. Like you made a great point, is that people always think like Ironman is like, you do the training day, and then training is done and your fitness is done. Like, it all ended on race day, and that's just not true. That's not the case. Like you said, like you just trained for over 12 hours, right? Let's say you trained for a big day. Yes, you need to recover from it, but don't lose it all by taking a month off of doing nothing, right? Use that huge aerobic base you just built to go out and ride as many aerobic miles as you want. Like, and that's some of the things I kind of stress with the athletes that I was building this block for, that need more of kind of a bike focus. It was like, dude, go ride your bike as much as you want. Literally, go ride it as much as you want. Keep it all zone 1, zone 2, a little bit of zone 3 sprinkled in, but just go ride your bike as much as you want. Like, I put a few runs in there, 1 swim. Just go ride your bike. Enjoy it. Don't ride without your Garmin. Ride just on time. Just go out and log and just continue to build that huge aerobic base that you have right now. Because what happens is so many athletes just stop, right? Dead in their tracks. Mm-hmm. And then they lose that fitness and have to start over again. You don't have to continue to train at a high volume. And it's not just the high volume I think people tend to worry about. It's like the focus and the structure, right, of having to adhere to a 7-day-a-week, training calendar. But when you just say, hey, here's a few runs I want you to do this week, and then you know what, this week, see if you can log 6 to 8 hours of riding, however you want to, whenever you want to, in any way you want to. Sprinkle in a little bit of zone 3, but that's it. Have the freedom to do it. If you want to go, if you can take a day off work, you get a short afternoon on Tuesday, go ride for 3 hours if you want to. If you don't, do an hour. Do whatever you want to do. So I think it's important to have that flexibility, but keeping that aerobic engine so that when it comes, especially if you're doing an early season 70.3 or a shorter race, or even, a lot of people now are doing it. They're like, I haven't got my eyes on Ironman Texas in April, or you got St. George in May, or, Wisconsin's moved to June. You got, our usual, April, May, June, 70.3 big races. It's like, yes, it's still a ways away. You need to focus on it, but continue to build that base and be as consistent as you can in the way that you want to. Obviously, like you said, like you don't want to jump on into a sport to where you get burnt out quickly from it, right? Like you said with riding, it's like you don't want to go so on that you end up hating the discipline that you want to improve the most on, because that's just a recipe for it's being just not just becoming stagnant because you're already stagnant. It's just becoming from basically losing fitness because you just don't want to do it anymore, right? But you become burnt out from it, which you don't want that either. So what you said to start off with is kind of the general direction I wanted to go with today. I was digging back through some of the athletes' data that we had from this last weekend at Ironman Chattanooga, and kind of looking at like average training hours, because you get this question a lot from athletes who have done sprints, Olympic 70.3s, who are thinking about doing a full, and they think, like I really don't have the time, right, to put in like massive amounts of volume, because that's all you see and all you hear, right, is the athletes that talk about doing a bunch of like 18, 20 hour, 22 hour weeks. That's kind of the standard for what I do. When the reality is for most athletes, that's like 4 weeks out of the entire year of their training cycle. Or you see a lot of athletes who, and I would honestly say this is probably 7 out of 10 Ironman athletes, is that they're more likely to do or average 3 to 4 or 5 hours a week of training for 40 weeks of the year, and then try to bump it up to 16 to 20 for their quote unquote Ironman block, and go from being not lazy, but just being, not totally committed on being consistent and doing the working and do year round. And then they want to jump up and do 7-hour bike rides and 3-hour runs to kind of like jumpstart their body to get to racing. That's also what you hear. But I was going back and looking through kind of 5 of the higher end spectrum athletes that we had that completed, all guys and girls in the 9-hour to 10-hour, low 11-hour range that raced. And I posted on our Crushing Iron Facebook page about, I went May 1st through race day. So about a good, May, June, July, August. So like a 5-month span. Then I did just like the race specific span, about from August 1st to race day, which is in September. And then I did the biggest block, which was, I think, the most fascinating for people to see, was the January block through like the whole year through race day. And it only varied about an hour and a half. In terms of average weekly volume. Most of them were in between 11 and 12 hours average, even through their biggest block. So it crested at like 13, low 13s for some of them stayed in the 9s, never hit 10 hours just because their life and schedule was that much. But there was like less than an hour variation from their biggest block through what their yearly average was, which is something that you and I touch on constantly with the podcast, is like, if you had to pick a guy or a girl that didn't train or wasn't focused November through March or April and didn't really do much, and then, was able to pull out like a 20-week block of 12 to 16 hours and really killing themselves and trying to condense it on the one, would you take that person, or would you take the athlete who just consistently gets after it and is committed and consistent and stays healthy, every single week of the year, but is able to hold 10 to 12, 13 hours a week? I'll take that one, right? Because consistency trumps, people who just kind of like to throw their hat in it at the last minute and do as much volume as possible can. And while it makes you feel good, because the thing that you just saw was, I did a 16-hour week. But the reality is, if you want to just scroll back like 2 months, you're going to see absolutely nothing. And so I think a lot of athletes kind of get fooled, unfortunately, into believing that what they've done just recently is the only thing that matters if it's a high volume hour. But the reality is, it's not what have you done for me lately, it's what have you done for me in the last weeks, months, and for a lot of athletes, years.
Yeah, I was going to say too, it depends how young that athlete is for me a little bit, but
yeah, a little bit.
Because I did exactly, I would say that I made a big push towards the end, and I was, I got this, I feel pretty good, but I don't think I had, that aerobic base, that stamina that built up over the time. And it just kind of, I was telling somebody, it felt like I was sort of racing on fumes out there instead of, with that good solid engine. It's like that engine was just on the edge overheating, and I had to keep pouring oil in it the whole day. And, I think that's kind of what you have to do a lot of times, but you can tell, that feeling. It's like, even this morning, I felt different than I did the last few days before Ironman. I have a little bit more kind of chill, and I've been eating better since the race, actually, because that's what happened.
Most people put on like 20 pounds
post
Ironman.
But all I kept, before the race, I laid out my nutrition for the bike, and I just kind of put it all on the counter. And I said, that is absolutely disgusting. And then, going into the race, how you're just kind of, for me, I'll tend to lean towards little more pizza, a little more this and that, because you're just sort of topping off that engine.
Yep.
Instead of building like the real foundation of things in your body. And it's just at that top level energy that you're seeking the whole time. And I immediately made that decision. Is like right after the race, I had one really bad day. You know how you run out to on the Amnicola Highway here and you turn at Burger King, right?
Yeah.
I ran by there twice and I almost went through the drive-through the second time just to get a chicken sandwich. I don't know. I had that big craving.
Chicken sandwich, all right.
The old school one.
Oh, yeah.
It's just terrible, right? But I actually, I think it was Monday. I drove out there, drove down the road, kind of relived my day, and I pulled in there and I ordered a chicken sandwich, man.
Did you get fries?
I got fries, yeah. Big old Coke, because that's the thing, man. I was so tired that, we always talk about going to caffeine, like when you're starting to get a little, I was getting that way, like on the bike, So I was going for those Martin gels, which I actually didn't mind. I've never had them before. And
They're an interesting texture, but I feel like they digest really well.
Yeah, it was I kept going to them, and I was getting the caffeine ones. But when I got out on the run, man, I always try to hold that Coke thing off as long as I could, but I kind of started dabbling first loop, and the second loop, dude, I was double fisting.
Nothing wrong with that either. If you need it, you need it, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the recipe. I kind of get off, I had a podcast with Jessica Jacobs, and she was talking about how that second loop of the run is really hard to keep fueling on, because you're just sick of everything.
And you have been, no matter how clean, right? And how pure and, without any additives and whatever else and all these products, it's still junk, right? Yeah. You're throwing in your body. It's still just a lot of crap with gels and condensed drinks that are sugary and have all this it's just a lot of crap you're just putting in your body all day long. And that's the thing that most people, they can't do it anymore. They're by the second loop, they're like, I just need just some water. But then you're like, but I need more than what? But I need more than water.
Yeah. And it's almost like you get that tendency to just chug a whole, gallon of that water, because you get just kind of, your body wants water and it wants to be clean. But you're so afraid to drink too much, because then you get the slosh and the whole 9 yards and everything like that. But yeah, the second loop is difficult to keep fueling on, and you probably really need it. But man, I was like, I don't know, the trade-off here is just this, it's like, I don't know, it'd probably like drink until 6 a.m. kind of feeling, that it's like at some point you just want to stop and drink some water.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone needs like a palate cleanse, like on a long race day like that, like something just cool, clean, crisp water, right? Just to like, even if it's just like gargling in your mouth or like just swishing around your mouth to get that like kind of taste out of your mouth and kind of, like I said, kind of cleanse the palate. That's not so, condensed with sugary jelly, just kind of gummy, whatever it is you're taking in. It's just like, God, like give me something, or give me plain cold water, or give me something that I can chew, like a pretzel, right? Like something that's a totally opposite end of the spectrum texture of what I've been taking in for the most part of the day. Give me something opposite. But then again, I mean, good luck running and chewing a pretzel at the same time. It's like things you can't do. So yeah, it is like nutrition wise, and like you said, and we've mentioned this before, is that, at that part of the game, it's all about, the valuable real estate in your gut. It's because it's like, you don't have that much room for anything else, and you also don't want to just fill it up like and get, that sloshy running stomach of just plain water, right? Especially if you need more nutrition, more fuel, more carbohydrates, sugar, caffeine, whatever it is you're needing. You don't want to just waste real estate and be like, oh, now I'm so full. Like I heard, multiple people walking on the bridge being like, I tried to throw up. Like I was trying to throw up to create more space in my stomach because I couldn't get anything down. I was just so full, I couldn't get anything down. And that is like, I think that's another part of the transition kind of phase between your big race and kind of obviously like doing like your own kind of debrief and then letting your emotions subside and just kind of giving yourself time to either be happy and be joyful or to pout, and kind of let the dust settle and don't make any rash decisions and signing up for 28 races or redemption or whatever it is. Pick through and figure out the things that you feel like you did wrong or that you mishandled or that your nutrition went to crap. Because here's what happens and I see this all the time as a coach, and you see this very, very frequently with self-coached athletes, and a lot of it has to do with attention span and just the timing of a race, especially end of a year race, because most people see end of the year with end of training, right? And they're like, God, October, November, I'm just do whatever I want to, and then everything, you just forget about everything. Like if you just did a race and you feel like you did a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong, make a list and prioritize when you need or want to check them out or check them off. If you feel like you didn't train enough and you feel like you really missed the boat on specific parts of your training, write that out and then figure out, and not starting January, because by then you're gonna lose all of your drive, because it's gonna become so far from the top of your mind. You'll be like, whatever, I'll just kind of figure it out, like it'll be fine. I've got the rest of the year. Like, start making a plan. Like, don't. The same goes for nutrition. But I'm not racing again until next May. You're gonna totally forget every single thing because it's so fresh right now. Start troubleshooting it now so you can continue to perfect it and get it right for the next time. Don't wait. Like most people do. Well, my nutrition didn't very go well, and then you're basically off for the next 4 or 5 months. And you're like, what was it? Like, I feel like I did this. And you're not even writing it down. You're just kind of like flying by the seat of your pants 12 months out of the year, and you wonder why nothing sticks. And that's a huge part with athletes is like, yes, your race is, your next race is far away, but if you want to have a better race, no matter how far away it is, start making some training related goals, right? Like things that aren't race related, that are training related, that you feel like will, because I was having a discussion earlier with another athlete via text. I was expressing like some things that I wanted to accomplish next year. I have a couple races I want to do next year, but my main goals are training related. There are a couple things I want to check off on my training list, because I know those will keep me engaged through training when races are so far away, and when they're going to be few and far between for me. I know that will keep me engaged, but what I also know is if I'm able to achieve even just 3 of the 4, then I'll probably end up racing some of my best races ever if I can hit those training. And so they're nothing to do with the race, or nothing to do with the total time, but all those kind of like the micro goals that I know I need to work on, that I know that I can probably hit, but then it will also keep me focused and driven. Because listen, focusing on a race right now that's not till next April, May, June, July, good luck. Right?
Yeah.
Good luck. On the countdown calculator or the countdown clock on your watch only really does good in sub 100 days. Even then, it's probably like, I still got 100 days. It's like 90. Like we always kind of like, bargain with ourselves. I got plenty of time. This is the time, right? And you and I both work with the majority of our athletes on a year-round basis. It doesn't mean you get crushed year-round. It just means that everything is purposeful year-round. That's how it should be. Like, yes, you need to have some time off to kind of be flexible and have more choice days during the week, or, do our December rules like we do in December and be flexible. But, if running is your weakness, dude, ain't no better time of year to run than right now. Like everyone did for the last 3 months was complain about how hot it was when they ran. And you know what 70% of people are going to do right now? Stop running, because they're done, right? They just did a 70.3 or Olympic, or their quote unquote season is over. They're going to stop all things. They're going to do a few things here and there. And then they're I just can't figure out why I can't get better at running, because you wait till it's 95 degrees May through August and September. And you wonder why only focusing on running 4 months out of the year isn't making you a better runner. Same thing with riding, same thing with swimming. And so if running is your weakness, get your ass out the door and go run 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week. Easy. Log some nice, beautiful miles. The leaves are changing. The temp is perfect. Hop on the trails, hop on the dirt, hop on the gravel, hop on the road, whatever it is. Get out and log some. Again, going back to the cycling we talked about earlier. Get those easy miles in and just keep building that aerobic pace in the best time of year to go running. And then, heck, in the next 2 months, it's going to be cold. You can walk out the door with just a little thing of water and run for an hour. When 2 months ago that was going to get you to the mailbox and back.
Yeah, I like the easy miles, and I've always talked about, and I tell all the athletes I work with, the reason I think you should comment in Training Peaks is sort of what you just said, is so you remember things, and you have these micro things in a race, and also, but you have them in different training days. So if you go out and have a bad thing and something happens, and you're like, yeah, I can't do that again, but you totally forget that stuff. So I think writing it down is great, and I like to encourage that. And I also I like it when athletes take time to write race reports, not necessarily for me as much as for like what you were just saying. So you can kind of reevaluate and look at things that you did wrong and just remember those things, because we talk about how getting better in this sport a lot of times is just experience. And I think that's a big part of it, right? You know, I tell like some of my athletes have had great races recently, and they're like, I know I got more in you. And I'm sure you do. You definitely do. And it's just a matter of kind of staying with it and keeping to learn. You know, it's like anything, you learn it, you can just start doing it easier. And over time, that's the kind of stuff that makes you faster too, aside from training harder, is just being able to be, you know, I have an athlete doing a mountain bike race in a couple of weeks, and she just got off Ironman Wisconsin. And we were talking about this yesterday, how she just feels like her steering and reactions are way behind. And I said, well, let's just get out and ride as much as you can between now and then to take that element away, because that's stress, that's anxiety, that's energy that you're wasting. So the more comfortable you feel on a bike, and that's what you're saying, is go out and ride long, slow miles and just get comfortable on a bike. That kind of stuff goes a really long way, you know. And with me, again, it's like, I know as I went through that race, I'm like, okay, my IT band was a little sore, my right knee was a little sore, my glutes, my hammies were kind of weak. I got to remember that. And that's what I should be working on now, you know, and it's through easy miles. But I also think for me, it's kind of doing other things like body work or body strength work and things like that I thought I was kind of doing, but I neglected, you know. But now's the time, right, to really build my muscle groups.
You're not going to walk in tomorrow with an Affliction shirt on and some CrossFit gear.
Oh, it's coming, dude.
Okay, I thought so. Dude, you said something so perfectly that so many people neglect, to realize, is that you have 12 months out of the year. The main part of the racing season for most people is about 4 months, right? Or 5 months. Once you get to that time of year, swim, bike, run is primary everything. The 95, if not 100% of your hours of the weekly time you have devoted. Again, if you're single, or you don't have to work, you can do whatever. You can train 20, 25 hours a week year round. Then you can do a lot of, of the accessory type stuff. But for the majority of people, 100% of the amount of time that they have needs to be allocated towards swim, bike, run in an even way. Like you don't have that much time during the meat of the season for discipline focused blocks, right? You don't have time just for a bike block, right? If you're going to put running on the shelf for a good while, or vice versa, if you're going to put biking on the shelf for a good while and run a lot, then you got a race coming up, it's not going to work out very well for you, right? Same thing goes with swimming. You can't put swimming on the shelf, because most people put it on the shelf already year round. Like, that was one of the best comments I got after this race. Reading Training Piece comment. Multiple people, Coach, that swim was so much easier than the majority of the swim workouts that you give us. And I was like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, right? Swim hard and race easy. But this is the time of year to address the things that you might not have time to specifically allocate extra time or an extra percentage of your hours to come race season, right? Because what happens during quote unquote race season is, like I said before, you go strictly with, all right, I've got 12 hours this week. 12 hours have to be basically evenly distributed or weighted swim, bike, and run. You're not going to, like I said, you're not going to have time for a discipline focused block during the race time season. Or if you think you need to weight train or swim a ton or put something on the shelf and run 6-7 times a week, like those are like, now is the time to attack the low hanging fruit, right? If you have imbalances in your body that are causing problems, if you have problems figuring out your nutrition, now is the time, not during race season when you're already stressed and overloaded. Like, do this stuff now. Like, don't put it off, because then it's gonna stay, right? It's going to stay on the back burner forever. You're never going to address it, because again, once you get excited and pumped, then race season happens, you're only focused on the stuff that you normally do, right? And you're going to continue to have the imbalances. Or if you need to focus on swimming, focus on it right now. Same thing for cycling, same thing for running. And the best thing about it is, for swim, bike, and run right now, especially if your race is far away, is you get to do this stuff unattached, right? From a specific race goal that has you hurrying or stressed. Now is the best time to run, ride, and swim stress-free, right? You don't have an impending race that you have to rush through your session to get to the next one. You don't have 2 more sessions a day to get in. You don't have a race, countdown clock that's only got 45 days left on. You can feel the pressure mounting and the expectations are coming. And I wonder if I'm going to PR again, or I wonder if this race. This is the best time of year to train. Like that was like, say what you want. And I got plenty of stuff to say about Lance Armstrong, but one of his best quotes, like way back in the day, was like, the Tour de France isn't won in July. It's won in January, February, and March. And that's 100% true with so many athletes who are successful. Is like, and you look at people, and I guess the best example you can give are a lot of people who were incredibly successful this whole year was they used last year, right, to train. They used last year to be consistent because it's part of who they are. It's not about becoming better. They don't need a race to get better. They just want to get better and be better at this sport, which means you do it as much as you can. You love it. You embrace it. It's not, oh, well, I need a race to be on the counter in order to get, like, if you want to figure out what your best really is, then you're not motivated by a race. You're motivated by getting better. And this is the time of year to be like, you know what? I suck at swimming, or I know I'm just not confident in my biking. Then go bike literally 5 days a week. Run 3 times to hold up the durability, shelf swimming if you're competent at it, and literally go ride your bike as much as possible. Same thing with running. Go out and run. Just use a chrono. Just log as much, as long as many minutes per week as your body can handle. Don't look at pace. Don't look at heart rate. Chill out, run aerobically, talk with friends, get out on the trail, do some hiking, go on a mountain bike ride, just increase your fitness in a fun, stress-relieving way that allows you to, months and months and months down the road, be the best version of yourself, right? Like, you don't have to, you don't want to be peaking right away, but it's about continuing on. And like you said, if you think you have imbalances, you need to address them right now, because when it comes down to an hour and a half on the bike ride, but you really need to spend 20 minutes doing your exercises, you're not gonna cut the bike ride short. You're gonna bike for an hour and a half and skip the the body weight exercise, whatever it is that's gonna fix things up. And then the more volume and the more stress and the more fatigue comes in, it's gonna be on the shelf and the back burner consistently. So do that stuff right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we always talk about train so you can train like you need to train.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what's going on right now. And I think one of the points that needs to be reinforced here is that go log easy miles right now, because, if you think you're not as fast as you want to be on the run or the bike or whatever, and you try to go out there and just start hammering it right now, it's like not time probably, because you're probably not ready for it. And then it's just going to create this perpetual cycle. And that's why I've actually got quite a few athletes come in this week, and it's been interesting because we've been just talking about this, like, all right, we just did an Ironman, or we just did our first 70.3 or whatever the case may be. And we just have to really use this last 2 or 3 months of the year to get ready for January. But build that durability just through time. And it's just because I just think we all have a tendency to, I want to get faster. And then the next thing we do is we just try to go fast right out of the gate or whatever. We just don't have the patience to get faster. And I just fall for that too. And I've been saying all week is like, don't, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, because I have that tendency with, and I've had, limited success with things like that in the past. But as I get older, as I get more kind of deeper and deeper into the sport and put more years and miles on my body and stuff like that, I have to really pay attention to getting my body to a place where it can hold up. And that to me was about 100% of what happened to me on Sunday, is just that I was right on the edge of actually I run that path, that Amnicola kind of thing a lot during training. Yeah. The greenway or the bike, what do they call it? Bikeway?
Greenway,
bike path, or what?
They call it the river. The
River walk. That's right, the river walk. I run that all the time, and it was so easy for me just to take a right and go back home right in the middle of that race. Don't think it did cross my mind. I bet it did. But but that was the thing, it was because I know it hurts. It hurts for everybody, but there's a difference, and you can tell when you have that deep-seated strength that everything's starting to give out, but you still have that. It's kind of like that inner confidence It's like you can fake confidence for a short period of time, but eventually your brain's going to start going crazy because you know you're lying and covering shit and doing whatever. But
or your legs call your bluff, right? Like that's what happens to a lot of people. Is like your bravado and what you're telling yourself only get you so far until your body's like, hey, dude, I know you're thinking and talking like we trained a lot, but we didn't. So here's the reality: is that we are going to shut down, right? And like I don't know whoever else is, but it's like the main thing is to keep the main thing, and that is durability and availability. Like the athletes who perform to the best of their potential, again, not the highest level, fastest athletes that we work with, but the ones who get the most out of themselves are the ones who, we said before, like 80-something% of all goals are achieved through the one main thing, which is availability to train, which allows you, if you're available 1 week and you train right, you're available the next week and then the next week and the next week. It's about being able to consistently train on a year-round basis, not training for 2 weeks and then getting hurt or burnt out and taking 3 weeks off, right? Or getting injured, having to take 2 months off. It's about availability, and availability is what allows you to be consistent, and the consistency is what allows you to become durable. Durability increases your opportunities to increase volume or do things to continue to be available. It's the best circle you should think about is, all right, am I doing things right now that are going to allow me to continue to train next week in the same manner, right? Even if it's a small increase or even a small decrease, it's about continuing on week after week after week after week. And listen, and that's why endurance sports, I think, are so hard for people. It takes years. It takes years to get you to be your absolute best. And even then, you and I are both coaching with this, then you ain't done yet. You still wonder, I wonder what I could do with this, or with one more, and you're like, here we go again, but that's part of coaching. Like, it's people, you're never finished with an athlete until they're finished with themselves. And that is just part of it. But if you can keep people moving and being consistent and happy, again, happiness is the other part of it. Like, it's just one of those things where you limit stress, you go to sleep, you eat the right food, 80, 90% of the time you work out pretty easy. The other 10% you work out kind of hard, repeat, rinse and repeat every week. Like that is it. Like that is 100% it. But most people don't. Most people are lazy as hell 6 to 7 months out of the year. Then they want to hack their way through getting ready for a race, and they can't figure out, just because they are, what I call prisoner of the moment triathletes in training, where you don't do jack for 6 to 7 to 8 months, and all of a sudden you're like, but man, the last few weeks, like, I've really done, like, some 10, 12, some pretty big. I think, like, yeah, for the last 4 weeks, like, you're too close. Take 20 steps back and look at the entire year, and don't look at what you've done lately. Look at all the things you didn't do. And I know that might sound harsh, but it's just the reality of endurance sports. It's work. And how much work can you do over time? It's not splashy training sessions. It's not hitting the track. It's not doing 25-mile training runs or, ride, run, Dave Scott brick workouts that are more like busy work. It's just about being consistent throughout the year, taking a day off here or two when you really, really need it, cutting a ride short or run short when you're kind of burnt out, sleeping in one day, going a little bit long the other days when you're riding with buddies. Like it really is like that simple, but people overcomplicate the hell out of it, because that's what happens when you have to reach for straws and you're grasping because you didn't do enough of the simple, easy, consistent work. You look for shortcuts, and when you look for shortcuts, guess what happens? You miss 19 screws in the entertainment system from Costco you thought you had right, and the next thing you know, it looks great, and then 2 weeks later, bam, it's done, it's falling apart, broke your flat screen. Seriously, it's the truth. Like, when people like to rush through, people think you can rush through endurance training and progression and to be their best, and you can think you have it, but then what rears its ugly head is all the time you didn't have it, and that's usually what overplays and dominates what you recently did have.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, let's face it, healthy and strong equals happy, really, if you think about it. So I just think that we talk about this kind of stuff a lot, and even I, sometimes, well, a lot of times lose track of it, But it really does come down to this, like, all right, what do we do today that make us feel like we can do today, tomorrow, and just be that consistent piece, at least, mentally and whatever it is through your health and your diet and things like that, because I know that there's this endless, I just feel like as we're, jamming in calories to try and get that energy back, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, but it's that sort of empty calorie lifestyle that kind of just catches up with you. But if you wake up every day, you have a solid foundation, you go about your thing, and I know it can't happen every day, but like to at least be in that ballpark. We talk about being in the ballpark for the race. We'll be in the ballpark for tomorrow, be in the ballpark today, as it will translate into being able to be in the same place tomorrow, very similar. And just to get through what you're going to do without being hammered all the time. Because that's the thing I fall into is exactly a lot of what you're saying is sometimes I'm like, 2 months out and I nail a 4-hour ride and I'm like, damn, I'm pretty close. I feel like it's in there. And then I just kind of like waver around and I kind of lose some of that. And then I got to pull another one out of my ass another month later. Thank God I'm pretty close, And in reality, I didn't do enough, and I said that, and I'm very open about that. But
don't be so hard on yourself, Michael.
But I was sort of close. I mean, I feel like I could have probably cut an hour off of that race
if it was in November.
Yes, and if I would have kind of kept what I was doing late, so maybe I didn't start early enough, and that's another thing I have. Like, what? I look at my watch. I got to start next week. I do that a lot throughout the year. It's like
Monday.
I mean, I should start this week, but I have to start next week.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's sort of like like I was talking about cramming for a test. I got to start studying for that thing on, Friday night. But then we'd go out, and I'd be like Saturday morning. Sunday night I'll get on that.
Like a Saturday I'll be hungover, and like no one really starts
and
hungover.
I'll stay up all night, drink
rest.
coffee in the Union, and I'll be ready for that test on Tuesday at 8. Without sleeping for 48 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's like you're backed into a corner, and that what it's going to take to get there, and a lot of times you get there or close to it, but man, it does not feel good.
People never succeed ever when they have to rush through anything.
Mm-hmm.
The only people that's been successful for is Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Emmett Smith. That's it. Everybody else who rushes through things, you never get where you want to be. You think you're closer, and you realize because you get this closer than you were, but the fact of the matter is you're still closer to where you used to be than to where you want to go. And that is the biggest issue with athletes who get stuck or become complacent or get stale or find themselves in the same range for every single race. And and for most people, it's not an age thing. It's about a consistency thing. And so if you want to really get better year in and year out, then guess what? You got to get better year in and year out, year round. It's not a 4-month, 5-month out of the year sport. It's just not. It's not the nature of the sport itself. And that's not how you get better. You might have, like you said, all athletes well, you might have a couple shining moments that make you feel hopeful, but the reality is if you had to, put all the stuff you didn't do on a scale versus all the stuff that you did do, what's how the scale is going to get dropped, right? It's probably the stuff that you didn't do or that you waited too long to do. But the more rushed we get, most athletes also become bigger risk takers, right? Like you're so close to the finish line. What feels like it should only be a 3-hour ride today because you're so fatigued turns into a 5-hour burnout fest because you're so close. I've got to get a long ride in.
Mm-hmm.
The people who don't feel that rush are people who have been doing it the last 8 months. They're like, I've been training like this is what I do. Like, so I missed a week. Who cares, right? Because here's a good example. To kind of put it like maybe give like a visual or something visual is. For the guy or girl who only really focuses on training for 3 months out of the year, missing one of your last big long rides or long runs is a big deal. For the athlete who it's a 10 to 15% weighted, miss. For athletes who train year round in some way, shape, or form, it means nothing. Literally means nothing. It's one day. It's one session out of hundreds and thousands in a row. Not a couple in a very condensed time frame preceded by why I didn't do anything for 5 months. And I think that is just one, like a thing that, and you see that with the stress level of people who are cramming in that procrastinating, is what we have to call it. The stress level rises significantly with, and as a coach, you just have to kind of say like, shrug your shoulders. Yeah, we kind of got to get this in, or race day is going to go very poorly because you've already missed a significant amount of training versus the athlete who's been super consistent. Hey coach, I got a family function today. Skip it. Nothing, no skin off your back, no stress, no nothing. And it makes the athlete's life so much easier to just be, it's a magnified, much longer version view of the reason why we rarely ever just give, we don't do like the Monday day off, a week thing, because the chances are you're probably going to need it on Thursday anyway, right? So now you've taken 2 days off for the week instead of just one. It's just and that's how it, if you look at it again in a broader view of, if you're consistent, and you need a day off here or 2 days there, doesn't matter. Like, cause we don't work them in, we work around them when they do happen. If you take that same view and train, it's like, I'm behind the 8 ball. I took Monday off, and guess what? Now Tuesday goes to shit, and you're like, now I'm 0 for 2. And then when most of the days, I'll just start back next week, right? I'm already 0 for 2. I don't want to finish my week out like this, or that's how people's brains work in terms of being quote unquote successful. But if you want to be really truly successful and figure out the best version of yourself, you've got to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. You talked about Barry Sanders and
Emmett Smith and Walter Payton.
Yeah. And when I think of Walter Payton, the first thing that comes to my mind is, because I grew up around Chicago, and is people would always talk about how in the off season he'd do hill repeats. You ever remember that? Mm-hmm. He would just I saw pictures of him, and I want to say it was kind of Sandy Hill or some kind of crazy thing. But that guy worked, he probably, I would say maybe somebody like Emmett Smith probably had more natural skills in him, and Peyton just worked so hard. But I think all those guys at that level work so hard. And you were talking about how they're the only good ones at rushing anything. Well, they're so good at it because I think they work so hard on it that game slowed down for them. So they're going fast, even though they're not thinking fast. Because you know how you can get into swimming's a good example. You can kind of get in it and work, and your heart rate's just flying through you're swimming hard, and or you can be going pretty much that same pace without being completely mentally gone, out of control. You just in the moment kind of thing. And I think that's what happens to us a lot on the run. We just start running, and we lose track of we don't have control of our bodies or our control of our minds in that moment. And those guys, and that's what I think translates the off-season work and how that can translate into races. And I always talk about slowing things down in a race and controlling the race and not letting it control you. And I think those kind of habits are built now, because if you're strong enough to be able to do that, that's how I was. I don't even remember anything about that run. It was just all a big crapshoot, grab bag of how do I get through this versus, a lot of people that are successful, at least they're getting through a good chunk of it. And we talk about turning it up at mile 18. I mean, what a joke for me. It's like I wasn't anywhere prepared to do that, but that's what you want. And I think we talk about it, but for most people, mile 18 is mile 6 or 8 on that Ironman marathon, because they just, then it's all about just digging as deep as you can just to get to the finish line, but not controlling it. And I think it's such a big point to reiterate how to fall in love with what you're doing today in training. And we talk about it, and I think about it all the time, and I still, I go in and out of it. I've talked about before when I used to, after college baseball, I was kind of lazy in that sport. I did fine. You kind of got by. Then afterwards, I started playing this competitive softball stuff, and I got really in this zone about, on my own during the week, working on going over to the local school and throwing the ball against the wall and working on my backhand for an hour. I just really loved it. And I'm trying to rekindle where that came from, why I just really enjoyed the practice, for lack of a better word. And
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you feel like it was because, and obviously while, softball and baseball have their similarities. Did you change positions?
No, I was still
Same?
shortstop. Yeah.
Do you feel like you had to pay more attention because it didn't come naturally to you anymore?
No, you know what I think it was? We were just talking. I think what kind of stuck with me is I think I realized that I was pretty good and I kind of wasted baseball in a way. And I was like, okay, now in a different way, because we played in front of a pretty big crowd. I mean, probably more in my college games sometimes, but just a lot of people. And I wanted to become the best because we were a very competitive team, and I wanted to, and I'm playing shortstop, and that's always kind of a position of focus for people. They look, the shortstop's pretty good.
Yep.
I just wanted to be that guy, and I knew it took a lot more effort than I was putting in, and I had a lot more potential. And that's what I hear all the time is I got a lot more in me. I got a lot more potential. And I think it really does boil down to this idea of accepting that and not wanting to waste it.
Do you feel like, because I feel this way with swimming sometimes, do you feel like you trained extra, or you focused extra hard on the practice because you felt guilty? Because you wasted your natural talent with not the same level of focus on the details? There's
definitely some of that, but I think a big part of it was, because I've talked about this before too, is every single time I stepped on that baseball field, I was afraid. Because it's very isolating out there. You can, we've seen through, many bad plays in history that have just branded people for life.
It's like being the kicker.
Yeah, it's kind of that kind of thing. You're out there, and I was, I sort of played baseball in this kind of how I do triathlon in a lot of ways, where it's that back me in a corner and I'll come out fighting mentality versus being prepared to fight, like being ready. But like I just sort of that, last resort kind of like, you just got to dig it up and figure out a way, versus why don't you just, build yourself up and be more and more comfortable with the daily grind? Because like, shortstop is, I had games where I had like 3 errors in an inning. There's nothing. I mean, you can't, once that happens to you, it's almost impossible to get out of that mentally. You just praying that ball doesn't come back to you. And I did not want that. I didn't like that feeling. I think I got to a point at some point where I just did not want that feeling. And I think, maybe you had a lot of that with swimming, where in the similar sense where you knew you had it, but it got harder and harder to keep holding that up.
Well, it's always easier to only be good than it is to be great. Because then people start staring at you or looking at you and expecting you to be great all the time. It comes with an enormous weight, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said something that was like, we had an athlete who did Chattanooga. Dream was be on the podium in Ironman and go to Kona, and we kept communicating all. He ended up getting third, and he wrote like this recap to one of his groups, and he forwarded it to me. Obviously, he was like, as I went up Barton, he's like, I was scared. He's like, I was literally terrified. Because I kept thinking, what if I succeed? Well, then what? Like, and it's like, it's always easier to be the chaser or the bottom dweller of the division when no one expects anything out of you than to be the hunted, right? And he was like, and he was like, I was genuinely scared. And I was fearful of, what if I do accomplish this goal? Like, then what? Which, it kind of sucks. I think a lot of people feel that feeling like in life, and that's why they self-sabotage things. He was lucky enough to finish third. He was on the podium. Unfortunately, because they gave out Kona slots at Coeur d'Alene, Tulsa, and Lake Placid, like raffle tickets at the carnival, he missed his slot by 1. But I think what you said is so true for so many people, especially if they grew up playing sports. Myself specifically, I was very, very, very good at swimming. I've been very, very good at a lot of sports. I've never been great. And people say, oh, you're kind of good at everything, or you good. And that's not, I'm not being cocky, but what that's more representative of isn't my general natural athletic ability. It's you can call it the lack of focus, or you can call it my fear of becoming great at one thing. And because then what happens, right? Then you have real expectations, right? Then all the things, for me, it was swimming. Like growing up swimming year round, it was you could swim in the Olympics. It was you're that level, and so I quit. right? Because I was like, you know that story, is like I've told it before. It's like the pressure became so much. I was like, I don't, I just kind of being good. I'm okay being good. Like, that's it. Yeah. The same thing goes for, I played summer tennis in high school, and then made it and got a scholarship to play tennis in college. And first semester, flunked out, done. I don't want these expectations, right? So, and so I think that way sometimes too, like in the pool, when I think about like really, honestly, to be totally transparent, if I ever achieve the goals that I have said before that I want out of myself, that I truly believe I'm capable of in triathlon, then it'll all start with one thing, swimming. It'll start with me actually going back to the sport that I feel like kind of like how you felt, I guess, in baseball, was like, I could just do it. And some of that is guilt. But it was also like one of my small training goals for this next year was I want to be able to do an off the wall 100 at under a minute. But because the thing for me is, it's my best racing has always been when I've been the most focused in the pool, because it's the one that comes the easiest to me. And if I can focus that much on the part of the sport that becomes the easiest to me, then I know I'll be so much more focused on the part of the sport, cycling and running, that are the hardest to me. But I think a lot of people have that fear in triathlon too, of not becoming great or being great or qualifying for this, but outdoing the expectation they had for themselves years ago. Because then they're like, shit, now what? Like, because if that's been driving you for years and years and years to complete an Ironman or to beat this time or to do this, and now you've got it, you're like, now I have to find like a new source of drive and a new why. Because like, okay, well, those are gone. I got that now. That's why I think it's so important to have small micro goals, like within training or within or just to love it. Frankly, is to love, like you said, you just love doing it. You loved being within the process of getting better at fielding and hitting and whatever it was when you're doing the softball. And I think people who are the best of the sport love those small, fine details of it, because that's just part of it. They just love what they do. And I think when you raise expectations and you raise time goals and you reach them and you go over and past them, I think people get lost, because they're like, God, now it's like, now what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to get better? It's like, and I think it's a complicated question, I think.
And there's always I think you can always, there's so many places you can dive into that and get better, because we'll wrap it up here in a second, but that always reminds me when Russell Wilson came to Wisconsin, and everybody was so excited because he transferred in. He's this great quarterback or whatever, thought of potential. But the reporters were writing these little articles, and one day they wrote, you guys aren't going to believe this, but I think he actually posted on the message board. Russell Wilson stayed like a half hour long after practice to work on fake handoffs, like being better at hiding the ball and little things like that. And if you can get your head, and he seems like the type of guy that we're talking about, actually, that would love to dive into the nuances of how to, or like a Tom Brady must be this way all the time, just thinking of
every minute. Yep.
Every little detail he can work on to get better at. And how they talk about his release has gotten faster as he's gotten, like 40 years old or whatever.
No stone left unturned.
Yeah. So that to me is the thing that we all have to figure out. We can say it's our why or whatever we want to talk about, but like, how do you find that like true gut curiosity and intrigue with getting better at the littlest, microest things?
And I would encourage, is I was listening to a podcast that Greg Bennett did with Dan Lorang, who's Frodeno's coach, Ann Hogg's coach, and Lucy Charles Barkley's coach, or as Hayden says, Lucy Charles Broccoli. That's his favorite triathlete right now. One of the things he said was that he was shocked when Lucy Charles Barkley said she wanted to compete in Paris, because his focus with his athletes is because it puts stress on you, like outside public stress. He says he focuses so much on limiting the outside stress in your life because there's already enough. And to put that kind of pressure on yourself publicly allows you so many more opportunities to lose focus, to rush things, to take risks, because you have to live up to the outside standard or the social media post that you posted 2 years ago about competing in this race or qualifying for this or meeting this time goal that you stated over and over and over again. He said, just keep it to yourself. And because it becomes easier to handle your motivation is more pure because it's from you. It's not from how many likes or hearts or whatever thumbs up you're going to get on, social media. It just becomes from you. It's something you could do when no one's looking and no one's around and no one will know. And that's the true type of improvement that, that I think people need to have to reach that next level. Because I think a lot of athletes put way too much stress upon themselves by how much they do post. And I do think there is some positive in social media, but I think way too many athletes put so much pressure on themselves to be successful because of what they've said, that it's a negative, honestly, that it creates too much stress, too many eyes, too many questions, too many comments. When, if you're going to be successful, you're going to be successful no matter what. But keep it to you don't have to keep it all to yourself. Choose a couple, small, close friends to help, to confide in. But other than that, keep that shit to yourself, and because you don't need any more outside stress, right? From people asking questions or remember when you said this, you're going to do this. And because the closer you get to race, that's what people feel. It's not just the internal pressure, it's the external pressure that, to be frank, most of them have lit themselves through years and years and years and years. If you have, big, hairy goals, keep them to yourself. Tell your coach, tell the close people around you. That's it. Keep it close. Keep it close. Minimize stress. Well, there's way too much stress in life already than to market yourself as stressable. And I think that's what we tend to do sometimes.
Yeah. I think we use that as cheap fuel too. That's
for sure.
It's like, put myself out there.
It's like a Red Bull, it's like, then it fades off and you crash.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. That's what reminded me of my race, actually.
This podcast was sponsored by Burger King chicken sandwich and French fries.
Yep.
On Amico Highway. That was good. I enjoyed that one. We thank you for listening and tuning in. Hope you have an awesome weekend. And for those of you that are racing, race hard, race safe, enjoy yourself, and have fun. My goodness, have some fun out there. It's got to be beautiful weather. I can't imagine it's not going to be beautiful weather for most people racing. So enjoy yourself. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community.
We have more gear up there, by the way.
We do. Mike is, it's like freaking, it's one of those, ship delivery service, it's like a Stitch Fix warehouse in here of C26 gear. He is on it. Russ Kaffenberger, if you can help us out, that'd be great too. I think he works for Stitch Fix or a company like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But go to our website. If you have any questions about coaching, click on the coaching tab, look through the roster and find the one that's right for you. It's the busiest time of year for us. So if you're looking at stuff for next year, don't wait till next year because frankly, you're probably going to be full. Especially if you're looking to get Mike because he is a hot topic right now. He is a hot. I feel like that guy at the bar when the girl comes up to you and you're thinking, oh, she's gonna come after me. She's gonna talk to me, and they're like, hey, is your friend single?
Oh,
I'm like, yeah, he is. He's single. I'll take another club.
I don't know what you're doing to me right now.
But anyway, and you can always follow us on Instagram as well and find out more about our amazing community of athletes at C26 _ triathlon. If you need anything from Mike, he's at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, I'm at C26coach@gmail.com.
All right, man. I enjoyed it too. See you.